Hello, my name is Emily Wilson. I'm very happy to have a chance to talk to you at the Women in Translation focused session on translation. And I guess I was asked to talk a little bit about gender and translation and how it's played out for me in my own experience as the first woman to publish a translation of the Odyssey into English. And I guess I would say first that I think it's really important to focus attention on this issue. In general, across the board, women translators tend to have much less recognition. There are fewer prizes given to women translators, also to translators of books originally by women. There tends to be pay gaps. There tends to be gaps in terms of whether women get hired to do particular kinds of projects. I think it's essential that we're drawing attention to these whole range of different issues. All that said, I do think that it's a complex issue and we need to not be deterministic about the ways that gender might play an impact in translation work. So in terms of my translation, when it appeared last year, there was a lovely interview with me in the New York Times, which had the headline, "First Woman to Translate the Odyssey." And then every single other piece about it, more or less, in the British and American press had the word woman in the headline. Woman, 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 as if there was nothing to say about me or my translation that didn't involve first, she's a woman. What you need to know about her, she's a woman. And I think there's pros and cons to that. I think it's certainly true that my translation wouldn't have got the attention it got if I'd been like every other translator of the Odyssey into English, yet another elderly white man. I feel very happy that my translation and the media coverage around it might be doing something to open doors for younger women translators, younger scholars who might be different from the elderly white man, people of colour as well as women. I hope that that the publicity around my translation does something to raise awareness also about the fact that racial, social, gender identities do matter in the humanities and in any interpretive work, including translation. I think it's good that public conversation is happening. But I also want to say three things which I think are kind of neglected or even denied by some of the press coverage. First is that my being the first woman to translate the Odyssey into English, I think is less a story about me than a story about a huge problem in the Anglophone classical translation field, which is that it's very male-dominated. That's a problem with the field. It's not something special about me. I guess one reason for that, I think, is about the systematic undervaluing of translation as an activity in the Anglo-American Academy. And because Latin and Greek are languages which are usually not studied at a high level just by native speakers, because we have no native speakers still alive in the dead languages. So I think that the devaluing of translation in the academy, combined with the fact that these languages are necessarily languages that are primarily owned by the academy, means that the field of classical translation ends up being super male dominated. I also think that So my main point about that is just that I don't think it's the case that if women did more classical translations, they would necessarily be better. But I think it would be better. I would love to have the day come when there are just as many clunky, terrible, badly written translations of Greek and Latin texts by women as there already are by men. My second point is that I don't think being female in itself guarantees you're going to have a female perspective, or that you're going to in any way be necessarily more critical or more aware about gender. If you look at the many other translations of the Odyssey into other languages, of which of course there are a lot out there, there are translations into French by women, there are translations into Italian, there are translations into Dutch, into not German, but Turkish. There are several other translations by women. I'm by no means the first. I'm several centuries behind being the first. I don't think if you read those translations, you necessarily get a sense this is really the female perspective. It's exactly the same as Emily Wilson's perspective. If you look at the translation of the Iliad into English by Caroline Alexander, who's a woman, you can't see, as far as I can tell, any stylistic, poetic, interpretive connections between her Iliad and my Odyssey, as I can see. Women are all different, in fact, just as men are all different. In my work, I try to be as conscious as I can be about social roles, social hierarchies, including gender. But I don't think that that consciousness is something that's predetermined by the fact that I'm a woman. I think it's something which I've learned partly through reading feminist scholarship. And then the final point is just I think we need to remember that men have gender identities too. I've been asked a gazillion times by interviewers about how my special affinity with the female characters in the Odyssey might impact my translation choices, or how does my being a woman affect my work and all that. I've also read interviews with other Homer translators, none of whom get asked, how does your special affinity with the male characters affect your work? You must be taking a specifically masculine perspective. They don't get asked that, even though one could say, yes, they are. They are taking a masculine perspective, but we don't interrogate that because it's normalized and therefore validated. So I think we need to stop asking women, why are you a woman? And start asking men, how does your gender identity affect your work? So that's what I have to say, and I hope you have a wonderful conference, and I wish I could be there. Bye-bye.